Hello there, and welcome to another edition of Retirement Your Way. Matt McClure here with you, along with Bradley Hardin with AmeriLife of Central Florida. Hey there, Bradley. How's it going?
Matt, I'm doing fantastic. It's always great when we get together. How are you doing?
I am doing very well as well, and I appreciate you. I know we've got a lot of great stuff to come up here on the show. First, though, I want to say a big thank you to you who are listening to the show and or watching us on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, hello in YouTube land. We appreciate you as well. Go check out the website for the show. It's planretirementyourway.com. You can do a lot of stuff there. You can listen to past episodes. You can also go and request a free meeting, a free consultation, get all of the knowledge imparted upon you that you need, and see if you can plan retirement your way, because that is the goal, not only of the show, but of, Bradley and his wife, Madison, and all the folks that they work with each and every day to really get you on the road to a retirement that you can have your way, not anybody else's way, but yours. Once again, it's planretirementyourway.com. And you can also subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And we will repeat all of these things many times throughout the show today. You could also give Bradley a call, 386-320-6406. That is 386-320-6406. And yes, it is a local number. That means you are not going to be getting somebody, in a call center somewhere overseas. It's going to be Bradley Hardin who picks up the phone. So speaking of Bradley Hardin, tell me and share with everyone what we're going to be talking about today here, Bradley.
Well, thank you, Matt. I always do appreciate the kickoff there. And, welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here today because what we're going to talk about could have a bigger impact on your retirement than the last 10 years of market returns. And again, when you give us a call at 386-320-6406, you're going to be getting me directly. We'd love to chat with you, set up that initial consultation. And, like I said, would love to visit with you and see how things are going. Now, here's something I've noticed. Most people, Matt, they spend 30 or 40 years building their retirement savings and only about 30 minutes deciding how to turn that savings into income. And I got to say, that's a little backwards. I know you can't spend another 30 or 40 years deciding how to turn it into income, but I do feel as though you should spend more than 30 minutes, planning for retirement. Because the idea, Matt, is that retirement isn't about accumulation anymore. It's about distribution. It's about replacing a paycheck, and that requires strategy. So over the next half hour or so on the show, we're going to simplify 3 things that determine whether your retirement works or not. Number 1 is being your Social Security claiming strategy. So part of the designations that Madison and I got to be able to help our clients is called the RSSA, which stands for Registered Social Security Analyst. And we're going to touch more on that topic here soon. The next part after Social Security strategy would be overall income planning. So again, that's taking into consideration pensions, required minimum distributions, Social Security payments, and all the things that you need to make sure that you can pay your bills in retirement. And lastly, we're going to touch on portfolio balance. Because again, as I mentioned, retirement isn't all about chasing that dream or accumulating dollars anymore. It's about distribution and living on those assets that you've now saved 30 or 40 years for. And if at any point you're thinking, I'm not sure my pieces fit together, I want you to write this down. So call 386-320-6406 or visit planretirementyourway.com. We offer complimentary retirement income reviews, no cost, no pressure, just clarity. So Matt, we're going to go ahead and get started here on the first segment of the show. And as I mentioned, that's going to be revolved around Social Security. So let's start with that, because for most retirees, this is the foundation of your income plan. Now, when Social Security was created, it was not designed to be your complete retirement plan. It was intended to supplement the rest of your portfolio and the rest of that income plan to help make sure that your necessary expenses are covered and that you can still afford to take those vacations, travel to see your family, and do whatever you want in retirement. One of the biggest mistakes I see is people filing simply because they turned 62. Well, they assume that earlier is better. And they say, oh, well, since I can go ahead and get it, I'm just going to take it now because who knows what's going to happen. Right. But the problem with that is that it will permanently reduce your benefit. So again, just because you can get it doesn't mean it always makes sense to take that benefit at 62. Now, again, that's also going to depend on other lifestyle factors, healthcare, um, whether or not you've got other retirement savings. So again, I know I'm kind of simplifying it, but in most cases, if you can afford to wait and not take that at 62, it's going to be better overall for your retirement plan. Now, as you may know, waiting until full retirement age, which right now is age 67, for those of you born in 1960 or later, age 67 gives you that full benefit that you're entitled to. Now, waiting until age 70, so deferring that for 3 years is going to roughly increase your benefit payout by 8% per year beyond full retirement age. So that's a 24% increase in your benefit by waiting until age 70. Now, again, we know that it always comes down to your certain circumstance, your situation. And so if you're thinking, maybe I should get an optimization report, or maybe I should look at this, go ahead and give me a call, 386-320-6406, or planretirementyourway.com, and we can go through a Social Security report. Now, we're not done there, but Matt, just off the top of your head, what's your opinion on the 62 to 70 and 67 real quick?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's everybody, obviously their situation is different. And that's the beauty of that Social Security report. And we always like to kind of talk about it, not necessarily as a maximization report for folks, but an optimization report, because it's a look at the different strategies that apply to them based on their earnings history and all that. And for some people, it could make sense to go on and take the money and run, as the song says, at age 62. Or for a lot more people, it could make sense to wait until age 70. Somewhere in between could be right for other people. Everybody's situation is different. So if you hear just sort of that generic advice, oh, always do this or always do that, that is not a good thing, because that person is not operating in a fiduciary capacity, right? I mean, and that's what you do each and every day. You and the folks that you work with there operate in that fiduciary capacity where you have to act in the best interest of the client that you're working with. So it's all about what's best for that individual person, not just some general rule, right?
No, I agree 100%, Matt. And that's why I bounced it over to you there for a second, because that's part of that initial meeting, that initial consultation, is finding out what exactly is the right plan for you. Because yes, I mean, for some people, maybe it does make sense to take it at 62 because of decisions they've made and their family. And there's a number of reasons why, but this decision rather isn't just about math. If you're married, the higher earning spouse's decision affects the surviving spouse's benefit for the rest of their life. So that survivor benefit could be the difference between stability and struggle. And I know I'm married. Madison is my lovely wife. And, I have this desire to want to make sure that she's protected. I want to make sure that I do what's best for her in the unfortunate event that I pass first or something happens. So maybe you're going to defer that Social Security benefit till 70 because you want to make sure that your spouse gets the highest amount. Right? Then we get to taxation. So up to 85% of Social Security can be taxable depending on how withdrawals are structured from other accounts. This is why filing without coordination can cost tens of thousands of dollars over time. So again, Matt, as we say, this is another call to action. If you haven't had your Social Security decision analyzed in writing, that's your first action step. So go ahead and give me a call, 386-320-6406, or go to planretirementyourway.com. Be happy to chat with you, happy to get you that Social Security planning report, and let's get some math and numbers on the page. Now, the second category here, kind of going into segment 2, is income planning beyond Social Security. So now once Social Security is decided, the next question becomes, how do we fill the income gap? Retirement isn't about having a large account balance. It's about having predictable income. And I use this analogy in my dinner and lunch events. And for those of you listening, I am local here to the Daytona Beach, Volusia County, Flagler County, New Smyrna, Port Orange, Ormond, all the above. And maybe you've gotten one of my flyers. Maybe you've attended one of my dinner seminars. I hosted one a week or two ago at Hyde Park Steakhouse. Now, I don't know when I'll be going back there. So if you missed out on that, I do apologize. But there was a gentleman, a few people that came in and said, "Oh, Bradley, we heard you in Madison on the radio. We wanted to come meet you in person. And we just so happened to get one of your flyers for a nice filet mignon." So if you get one of those and you do see mine and Madison's face on there, please feel free to come on out.
That sounds good. Mine must have gotten lost in the mail. That's all I got to say about that.
I don't know if you quite fit the target demographic yet. Now, we'll get there.
Give it a few years, several years.
Absolutely. So the first step in income planning is separating our essential expenses from lifestyle expenses. So the essentials would be your housing, utilities, healthcare, food. Our lifestyle would be more travel, entertainment, hobbies, and family gifting and donations, right? So those are, now you could put donations in essential or lifestyle, whatever fits your portfolio there. So what we want to do then is we calculate your guaranteed income sources. We look at Social Security, we look at pensions if you have one, and whatever gap remains must come from your portfolio. So let's say, for example, your mandatory minimum income each month or your expenses is $4,000. That's what you have to spend every month to keep the bills going, to keep the house lit, the food on the table, and your hobby. So $4,000. And let's just say that your Social Security is $2,500, and you were unfortunate enough to not retire with a pension. So we've got $2,500 coming in from Social Security. $4,000 is the minimum that we need to live. So quick math says, I need $1,500 every month to make sure that I'm meeting my bills. So then that's when we look at your portfolio and we figure out where are we going to reposition and what buckets are we going to use to generate that $1,500 gap that you have. Now, if you're considering, what is my gap? What are my expenses? What's my guaranteed income? And you're having trouble putting all that together, let us as the professionals help you do that. So you can give me a call, 386-320-6406, and we can piece together your puzzle to figure out what's your income gap and how can we solve that. So one of the things that we try to eliminate or write out of a portfolio is the sequence of returns risk. And what that says is if the market declines early in retirement and you're withdrawing at the same time, it can permanently damage your income sustainability. And so that's why I use the bucket approach. So generally, we're going to operate the portfolio from 3 separate buckets. One bucket being the growth bucket, and that's going to hold our long-term investments designed to outpace inflation. So maybe that's managed money portfolio, right? That's a mixture of equities, bonds, stuff on the market, and that stuff is designed to outpace or potentially beat inflation. Let's segment that off to be our growth bucket. The next bucket would be our protection bucket. So that's stable assets for near-term or short-term emergencies or needs, right? Think savings, money markets, high-yield savings, and things like that. Money that's liquid, money that you can pull from if the AC breaks or you need a new roof or you got to fix the car, right? We need We need something in that short-term bucket for stuff that we're not planning for. The last bucket, which would be our income bucket, are assets specifically structured to generate predictable income. So the idea is I don't want to be pulling money on a monthly basis to meet my income needs from my growth bucket and my protection bucket, right? Each one of those buckets has a designated need. And the idea is every dollar should have a purpose, right? So let's figure out, so if your current strategy depends entirely on stock market cooperation every year, that's not a retirement plan. That's hope. You're hoping the market does this. You're hoping it does that. And the idea is that that's just not a plan. You're risking it for the biscuit, if you will. So if you'd like to see your income gap, let's calculate it clearly. Let's get our buckets set up. Again, give me a call, 386-320-6406, or visit Plan Retirement Your Way and ask for the income gap analysis. So Matt, as we do these call outs and call to actions and everything, do you agree or disagree with the 3 bucket approach? What's your thought? I'm curious.
Yeah, it's like everything in its place, right? It's like a place for everything and everything in its place when it comes to that. It's you're keeping those buckets separate so that you've got all of your needs met. I mean, because those long-term needs are going to be a lot different than your short-term needs. I mean, you think about short-term needs, like, keeping the lights on and keeping all the bills paid and the car paid for, the house paid for, all of that kind of stuff. It's different than, what if down the road one the HVAC breaks, or I've got to do XYZ repair on the house or buy a new car, like all of those different things. So it's when you think about it, it's just really smart planning. And like you said, the alternative is kind of just throwing it at the wall and seeing what sticks, and that is not a plan at all.
No, absolutely not. And so I think that's why it's important to remember that, having a good claiming social security strategy is important. Piecing together that income gap analysis. These are all things that we can do if you decide, or actually when you call in, right? We're getting people calling in very often, and I'm sitting down with these folks and I'm looking forward to helping them and helping you out in the future. So let's just pause for a moment, kind of recap. We're about halfway through the segment. If you're within 10 years of retirement or you're already retired, this is not the time for guesswork. You deserve clarity, you deserve coordination, and you deserve confidence. So give us a call, schedule your complimentary retirement income review today at 386-320-6406, or visit planretirementyourway.com. So Matt, let's kind of get to the third segment of the show, and that's going to be talking about portfolio balance. So, most advisors, when they sit down, they're going to ask you, what is your risk tolerance? And I prefer to ask, what is this money for? What's the purpose of this money? And that kind of bounces back to the 3 bucket approach of, let's identify a plan for each one of these dollars. Right, Matt? Because you agree, right, that you worked for these dollars, so it's a time for them to work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. You've worked hard for them over the years. It's time for those dollars to work just as hard for you as you worked for them. Absolutely right.
And that's something, my grandfather taught me. You should always pay yourself first, right? As you're saving, and, pay your future self first is what he always said. Then, pay your bills and all that fun stuff, because future you will be very grateful that past you paid yourself. Money. So again, getting back to the balance in the portfolio, money designed for income should not behave the same way as money designed for growth. So if you're overexposed to equities, volatility can disrupt your retirement lifestyle. If you're sitting in too much cash, inflation is quietly eroding that purchasing power. Balance is not a random percentage split. It's about a purpose-based allocation. And again, that just really ties into that bucket approach of let's identify what these dollars are doing. So we want to be diversified across equities, fixed income, and risk managed income strategies to provide stability. And there are ways to create a bucket of guaranteed income that you can never outlive. And a lot of people like that concept because most folks out there, and maybe it's you listening, you're thinking, well, that's me. You didn't retire with a pension. You retired with Social Security and you retired with your retirement assets, your 401ks, your 403bs, and TSAs, TSP, all the different acronyms. But what you didn't retire with was a pension. And so there are ways for us to be able to create that personal pension for you to fill in that income gap that we identified during step 2. And most importantly, and again, this is a big one. Your portfolio should allow you to sleep at night, right? No more thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen on the TV or on the news cycle that's going to cause my portfolio to be so volatile up and down. No, we want to rest easy, right? Because you worked for those dollars and now it's time for you to enjoy them and let them work for you and allow you to have that peaceful, 5 o'clock somewhere retirement. Some folks out there listening may know the neighborhood. You may live in the neighborhood, but Margaritaville, that's 5 o'clock somewhere all the time at that place. We're waking up, hitting the pool, going to bed, hitting the pool, hitting margaritas all day in between. That, whether you want to live in that neighborhood or have that lifestyle or not, I think everybody can agree that they want to be able to sleep good at night with their portfolio. So ask yourself, if a 20% market correction, would that force you to change your lifestyle? And if so, that's a warning sign. So we offer a portfolio stress test where we model downturn scenarios and show you the impact on income sustainability. So we show you, okay, well, what if the markets in your portfolio lost 25%? Could you still pull out that 4% or that 4% rule comfortably forever? Right? Because, if the market goes down by 25%, you need 33% returns just to break even. So again, if this is something you've been thinking about, if you're coming up to retirement or you're in retirement and a lot of your portfolio is still, on the market and kind of, having that fear factor, if you will, give me a call. 386-320-6406, planretirementyourway.com. Let's create the buckets. Let's fill in the gap. Let's do the Social Security report, and let's get this plan working. So kind of as we near the end of the show here, let's kind of tie everything together, right? So your Social Security decision affects your overall income structure. How much you're bringing in from Social Security will determine how much of a gap you have in your plan. Your income structure affects your portfolio risk. So if you have a larger income gap and you're having to pull more money from the portfolio and you have a big downturn, well, that could throw off the entire plan. And I know a lot of people out there want to make sure that those hard-earned dollars last as long as they do. Your portfolio balance affects sustainability. When those 3 areas are coordinated, retirement feels stable. So your Social Security, your income plan, and your balanced portfolio, if all 3 of those are in harmony, you feel stable. You can sleep at night. You can do the trips. You can take the cruises. You can do whatever you want to do in retirement. But when they're not, retirement feels uncertain. So again, ask yourself, have I optimized my Social Security benefit? Do I know my income gap? Is my portfolio built for income or just growth? Could I withstand a major downturn? If you don't know those answers with confidence, that's okay. That's why we offer the Retirement Income Review. Give me a call, 386-320-6406, or visit us on the web at planretirementyourway.com to get in touch with Madison and I. And on those visits, let's bring your statements. Let's look at your Social Security estimate. Let's make a plan. Let's see if your plan is coordinated, Because at the end of the day, retirement isn't about selling products. It's about solving income problems. So again, Matt, that's the meat and potatoes of the message that I wanted to get across to our listeners today. Anything you might want to add here in the last few minutes?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's great. Those are such important questions for everybody to ask themselves. Am I actually, like we talked about earlier, optimizing Social Security, not just necessarily maximizing it, but because that maximum option may not be the best thing for me. Do I know if I have an income gap and how big that gap is? Is your portfolio actually built to, turn that corner from growth to income? Because it's always been about, oh, what can I save? What can I invest? How much can I grow this portfolio over the years? Then you got to flip that switch in retirement, and it's a completely different, like it's a big mental thing too for so many people. And then could I withstand a major downturn? You talked about that sequence of returns risk earlier, which sounds like a wonky sort of a term, but it's as simple as you put it. It's like, if you're making withdrawals and there's a market downturn, especially early on in your retirement, like what can you actually, how big of a hit can you actually take? And I think that's the great thing that you offer with the free consultation is just the chance for people to see what their portfolio could actually withstand as it currently is structured. And then a portfolio that you might recommend for them, see what that could withstand. And if those changes make sense for them, it's a great thing to just have that clarity. And then that clarity can turn into peace of mind.
Right, absolutely, Matt. And we want to make sure that when our clients leave the office, they feel like the problems are solved, right? Because, you've spent 30 or 40 years trying to get to this point. Well, the next 20 or 25 years in retirement should be peaceful, should be happy. You should execute that plan, be able to go do what you want to do. I know there was a big race this past weekend, the old Daytona 500. If you want to do it, that's what we want. We want our clients to feel relieved. They want to know that if the market does go down or has a big correction, that they're not going to be affected and they're going to be able to still pay their bills and enjoy the retirement that they planned for.
Yeah, absolutely right. So once again, 386-320-6406 is the number, or go to planretirementyourway.com. All right, well, Bradley, as I look at the old clock on the wall here, it's showing that we're out of time. But I really do appreciate every time we get together, all the great knowledge that you bring to the table. And I know the listeners do as well. We'll do it again next time, sir.
Thank you, Matt. You have a great day, and we'll talk again soon.